Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon. Young and Restless preview. Is it the end of Adam and Sally again, plus who gets the boot from Abbott-Chancellor? In a Young and Restless preview for the week of August 19 to 23, Billy takes charge. Read on for the details and watch the video below. Billy and Lily have been fighting over Abbott-Chancellor since they broke away from the Winters group. Fearing Victor was coming after their company due to his hatred of Billy, Lily convinced Billy to take a back seat at the company, or did she? Billy decided he was no longer the problem Lily thought he was, even though, at the exact moment, Victor ordered Adam to start a negative attack campaign against Billy and Abbott-Chancellor. Next week, Billy tells Lily, "I'm going to fly solo at Abbott-Chancellor, and your services are no longer needed." Does Billy really think Lily will leave without a fight? Summer and Kyle's problems only worsened when Summer went to Victor to try to force Kyle's hand in their custody battle over Harrison. Jack and Diane, meanwhile, continue to find themselves on the outs with their son, who has become #Team Victor in an attempt to prove himself to his parents. Coming up, Diane tells Jack, "Maybe we should ask ourselves, what would Victor do? He's the expert on dirty tactics." Jack winces. "I hate lowering myself to his level." Diane muses, "Well, if it takes a little moral compromise to save our son, I am willing and able to make the sacrifice." Are Jack and Diane going to start playing as dirty as the mustache? Finally, Billy and Sally happen to overhear Chelsea and Adam discussing Connor in the park along with that one night between them in Baltimore. Coming up, Sally says to Adam, "Yes or no? Did you sleep with Chelsea in Baltimore? Will Adam come clean? Is this the end for Adam and Sally and Billy and Chelsea again?" The tension at Newman Enterprises had been building for weeks, but no one could have predicted how it would all come to a head. Adam Newman, with his brooding intensity and penchant for making decisions that cut deep, was once again at the center of the storm. And Sally Spectra, the fiery redhead who'd captured his heart despite their tumultuous history, stood on the precipice of yet another heartbreak. Rumors had been swirling around Geno City that Adam was on the verge of a decision that could change everything, not just for him but for Sally as well. Their relationship, always a roller coaster, was now teetering on the edge of a cliff. It wasn't just business that was driving a wedge between them, it was the weight of their past and the uncertainty of their future. At the Abbott mansion, the atmosphere was no less charged. Jack Abbott, ever the patriarch, was grappling with the latest crisis to hit the Abbott-Chancellor merger. It seemed like every day brought a new challenge, and this one had the potential to upend the delicate balance that had been so carefully maintained. With the merger came new responsibilities, new alliances, and inevitably, new enemies. And now, someone was about to get the boot from Abbott-Chancellor, a move that would send shockwaves through the entire business community. Back at Newman Enterprises, Sally was pacing in her office, her thoughts racing as she tried to make sense of the cryptic messages she'd been receiving from Adam. Their last conversation had been strained, to say the least. Adam had been distant, more so than usual, and Sally couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. She had fought hard to be where she was, both in her career and in her relationship with Adam. But now it felt like everything was slipping through her fingers. Adam, on the other hand, was in a state of turmoil. He had always been a man of complex emotions, driven by a need to prove himself, to outdo his father, Victor, and to carve out his own legacy. But with that drive came a price, and more often than not, it was those closest to him who paid it. As he sat in his office, staring out the window at the city skyline, Adam knew he was at a crossroads. He could either push Sally away to protect her from the inevitable fallout or risk everything to keep her by his side. But the decision wasn't just about Sally. There were bigger forces at play, and Adam knew that whatever choice he made would have far-reaching consequences. His position at Newman Enterprises was precarious, and with Victor watching his every move, there was little room for error. The pressure was mounting, and Adam felt like he was suffocating under the weight of it all. Meanwhile, at Abbott, the Abbott family was in crisis mode. The merger with Chancellor had been a bold move, one that was supposed to solidify their place at the top of the business world. But with great power came great responsibility, and now it seemed like the cracks were beginning to show. Jack Abbott, ever the diplomat, was doing his best to keep the peace, but even he knew that something had to give. The question on everyone's mind was simple: who would be the one to take the fall? With so many powerful personalities involved, it was only a matter of time before someone was forced out. The tension in the boardroom was palpable as the Abbotts and Chancellors gathered for an emergency meeting. The stakes had never been higher, and the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. As Jack looked around the room, his gaze settled on Billy, who was visibly agitated. Billy had always been the wild card in the family, prone to impulsive decisions and risky behavior, but this time his actions could have serious consequences for everyone involved. Jack knew he had to tread carefully. One wrong move could bring the entire house of cards crashing down. Across town, Sally's anxiety was reaching a breaking point. She had always been a fighter, someone who thrived under pressure, but this time felt different. The uncertainty was eating away at her, and she couldn't help but wonder if her relationship with Adam was about to implode. She had sacrificed so much to be with him, and the thought of losing him now was almost too much to bear. Finally, unable to stand the suspense any longer, Sally made her way to Adam's office. She needed answers, and she wasn't going to leave until she got them. As she walked down the hallway, her heart pounded in her chest. She knew this conversation could change everything, but she was determined to face it head-on. When she arrived, Adam was waiting for her, his expression unreadable. For a moment, they just stood there, the silence between them heavy with unspoken words. Finally, Sally broke the silence, her voice trembling slightly as she asked, "What's going on, Adam? I feel like you're slipping away from me, and I need to know why." Adam took a deep breath, his eyes locked on hers. "Sally, I've been trying to protect you," he said quietly. "There are things happening right now that I can't control, and I don't want you to get caught in the crossfire." Sally's heart sank. She had heard these words before, and she knew what they meant. "So you're pushing me away," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Is that really what you want, Adam? To end this?" Adam hesitated, the conflict evident on his face. "It's not what I want," he admitted. "But I don't know if I can keep you safe, and I can't live with myself if something happens to you because of me." Sally stepped closer, her eyes fierce with determination. "I don't need you to protect me, Adam. I need you to trust me. Whatever is happening, we can face it together, but I can't do that if you shut me out." For a moment, Adam said nothing, his mind racing as he weighed his options. He wanted to believe her, to take that leap of faith, but the stakes were too high. The decision he made now could either bring them closer together or tear them apart for good. Back at the Abbott mansion, the boardroom was in an uproar. Accusations were flying and tensions were at an all-time high. Jack knew that a decision had to be made, and quickly. Someone had to take responsibility for the recent setbacks, and it was clear that not everyone would survive the fallout. As the meeting came to a close, Jack made the difficult call. "We can't afford any more mistakes," he said, his voice firm. "We need to make changes, and that means letting someone go." The room fell silent as everyone waited to hear the name. Finally, Jack spoke, his voice tinged with regret. "Billy, I'm sorry, but it has to be you." Billy looked stunned, his face a mix of shock and anger. "You're kidding me, right?" he demanded. "You're going to throw me under the bus." Jack shook his head. "It's not about throwing anyone under the bus, Billy. It's about protecting this company and everyone in it. You've made some risky decisions lately, and we can't afford any more instability." As the reality of the situation sank in, Billy stood up, his jaw clenched in frustration. "Fine," he said, his voice cold. "But don't think for a second that this is over. I'll be back, and when I am, you'll regret this." With that, Billy stormed out of the room, leaving the Abbotts and Chancellors to pick up the pieces. The decision had been made, but the fallout was just beginning, and as the dust settled, one thing was clear. Nothing would ever be the same again, not for the Abbotts, the Chancellors, or the Newmans.